Hey, everybody, welcome back. Glad to have you here for another edition of the Third and Leng Podcast. Yeah, for some reason, still hasn't been run out of business yet. I'm sure that's coming any day now. But again, very happy, excited to bring in the guy. You know him, you love him. I don't know why, but you do. Let's try to bring him in. We'll dial up the internet. No, look at we've got the one and only Matt Leng, proudly wearing his orange and blue. I don't know if that'll go over well with our guests, but very excited and happy to bring in Coach Sean Considine joining us from Byron, D coordinator, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Defensive coordinator, Byron alum, Iowa alum, NFL alum, a lot of alums. And Coach, could not be happier for you to join us and welcome to this goofy show.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm a big fan of what you guys are doing. I love high school football just like both of you do. And I knew Matt would have his Illinois gear on, so I had to wear my Iowa stuff.
You did a little chest bump there, okay? Right there, man. Okay,
yeah.
So we have an Iowa Hawkeye coaching us right now, and he's doing a really good job. So things are really, really going good in Illinois land right now.
You know, me and Brett Bielema have a big background with each other. Brett was a big part of getting me an opportunity to walk on at the University of Iowa. My grandpa Thge had a connection with somebody that knew somebody from Prophetstown, Illinois, and Brett was a big part of me getting an opportunity to walk on at Iowa, and he was kind of my mentor and the guy that kind of kept me straight and narrow and made sure I understand what it takes to be a walk-on. And, you know, I couldn't be more thankful for him. I'm a big fan of his. I've supported him even after he left Iowa, and I wish him nothing but the best at Illinois. He's a great coach.
Coach, before we even get to the high school football side, I've got to ask you, since you're wearing your Hawkeye gear, what is it about Iowa? I mean, you talk about just, you know, and it's funny because I've been covering recruiting for so long. I see kids and I see a kid and I go, you know what? That's an Iowa kid right there. That's an Iowa commit, and it usually means great kids, great personalities, hardworking, all those attributes you seem to find in every single damn Iowa signing class. And unfortunately, a lot of them from the state of Illinois. What is it about that program?
Well, any good football program starts at the top. And, you know, if you want to ask me about Byron football, I'm going to tell you how great Coach Stein was when I was playing and Jeff Boyer is now. And University of Iowa is doing what they do because of Kirk Ferentz and the people he surrounded himself with. I mean, Coach Ferentz is one of the most incredible leaders I've ever been around. You can trust every word he says. He does things the right way. There are absolutely no shortcuts taken in that program. They value leadership. They value hard work. And so, I mean, their walk-on programs is what it is because you actually have an opportunity to go out there and just by what they see and what you do while you're inside those walls are the guys that are getting put on the football field. And, you know, they want great recruits and 4- and 5-star guys, but for whatever reason, it doesn't seem like a bunch of them are ending up out there. But the way they develop players out there is just unbelievable. And, you know, when I was there, you had Norm Parker was the defensive coordinator who had old Illinois connections and stuff like that. And now Phil Parker's out there. Consider him one of the best football coach I've ever been around. I mean, Phil Parker on the defensive side of the ball at the University of Iowa is the best coach in the country at developing defensive football players. What he did last year and what he's doing again this year as the defense coordinator is just incredible. You know, couldn't say better things about the University of Iowa.
And Coach, I was going to say, you know, when I think of Iowa Hawkeye football, you know, I think of Coach Fry, you know, Coach Ferentz, and I do think of the word, the token word, player development. You know, you see that, you know, kind of spread around. It's kind of like it's just one of those phrases that you hear, but it really connects with Iowa. I definitely think we have that now with Coach Bielema in player development. What did you learn at Iowa in terms of the player development and kind of how they did that and what you learned from that? And then do you use some of that in terms of trying to develop players at Byron? Obviously, success breeds success. Tradition is tradition, and it never graduates. But in terms of that player development, how do you do that at Byron? And did you take some of the things you learned at Iowa and brought that to Byron?
Yeah, I think we're doing a lot of similar stuff. I mean, all our weight room stuff here at Byron comes from the University of Iowa. Coach Boyer and Coach Wilmarth have been out, and Coach Yearley have went out to the University of Iowa and worked with the strength and conditioning staff and making sure we're doing the same type of stuff that they do. But I think it's about consistency and doing small things over time, doing things right all the time. I mean, Coach Ferentz loves to use the word sexy. I mean, there's nothing sexy about hard work and doing things right consistently over long periods of time. I mean, the best thing that ever happened to me coming out of high school is I had to walk on. It was, the recruiting process was one of the most frustrating things I've ever been through in my life. I mean, nobody wanted me. Nobody came to Byron to watch me play. I mean, I rushed for over 4,000 yards. We won a state title. I was, 4.0 student. Team captain. I think Coach Stein would have said all the greatest things in the world about who I was. And, at the end of the day, Northern Illinois, who is where my dad played football as a scholarship athlete, wanted me to walk on. And just a very, very frustrating situation. But getting to the University of Iowa and getting around, just by the miracle of God, and kind of, I think it was just meant to be. And then having the opportunity to be around the type of people I was out there really challenged me. And so, when you start talking about these kids at Byron or wherever you're at, I mean, it's going to be tough and it's not fair. And you're going to have to put a lot of work in. And if you're committed and you're willing to do what it takes over long periods of time, you just never know where it can take you. I mean, when I stop and think that I played 8 years in the NFL after, all that stuff and the frustrations. And, I just I'm thankful that my parents never let me quit, because there was a lot of times I've had some tough conversations calling home. I mean, when you're a walk-on at a Big Ten program, I tell some of my kids every day as the defense coordinator at Byron, you're having tough conversations with kids that are at the number 2 spot or number 3 on the depth chart. And I usually like to let them know that I've been 7th string before. And I've actually been 7th string for a couple seasons in a row. And so that's kind of where you come from. But the best thing that ever happened to me is that my response to being in that type of situation was to work harder. And so, I just try to share that message with some kids that are going through some tough times or, wanting to play more and all that type of stuff. And you just never know what can happen if you just continue on the path, you do things right all the time, and you work hard, and good things can happen.
Sean, what I find amazing about that message is, and this as well as anyone, the recruiting process has changed so much just in the last handful of years between the portal and everything else going on these days. That message carries true now, carry true 20 years ago, will most likely carry true another 20 years down the road. When families talk to you and kids talk to you, and with all this stuff going on in this day and age, I mean, what do you tell them? Is it stick to your guns and keep working hard and get it done? I mean, because as you know, it seems like the opportunities for high school athletes now are out there less and less than ever before.
Yeah, I tell everybody that first and foremost is the kid, the player, needs to make up their mind if they really want to play college football. If they were really committed to playing college football, I'm talking like you're going to be up early, you're going to be home late, you're not going to be partying on the weekend, you're not going to be traveling to see your buddies or at other schools. I mean, if you're really truly interested in that, if you love football, if that's what you want to do for 4 or 5 years in college instead of, having that freedom and lifestyle that a lot of your buddies are going to be doing, then the toughest decision is, being really truthful and honest between your parents and your coach of what level of football is for you. I have a hard time having that conversation with families, because I'll guarantee you there's not one person in Byron besides my dad that thought I should walk on at the University of Iowa. Maybe Coach Stein would tell you that, that he would have thought that was a good idea, but I think that was a pretty big reach. Although I felt like I could compete at that level if I got the right opportunity, and then ended up working out great. So, I think the most important thing though is that the kids got to decide that this is what they want to do. It can't be mom and dad's decision. It can't be the head coach's decision. The kid has to want to do it, because it's going to be such a big commitment for them.
Yeah. And
there's going to be a lot of sacrifice, and there's going to be a lot of hard work, and there's only one person that's going to go through that, and that's the player.
Matt?
Well, you mentioned Coach Everett, And I've had the opportunity to talk to him. I was able to get his phone number and call him up while he was down in Texas. And, you know, he took the time to talk to me. You know, my memories of Byron football started in 1996. Still to this day, I think it's the best 3A football team I've ever seen. There was a quarterback by the name of Jeff Boyer. There was a running back by the name of Sean Considine, and it was the best football team I thought I've ever seen in terms of 3A football and how you guys handled St. Joe. So I have two questions. The things that you learned from Coach Everett and just that dynamic togetherness that you guys had in 1996, it was just such a well-oiled machine, but it really looked like the chemistry was good. And obviously that came from the top down from Coach Everett. What can you take from Coach Everett and from that 1996 team? Because I tell you what, when I do talk to Coach Everett, he has a lot of great things to say about you two and that whole team.
Yeah, I mean, it was 1999, Matt. So
99, okay.
But yeah, Coach Stein is just an unbelievable human being first and foremost. I mean, he coached at Byron, I think 37 years. He was here, you know, coaching in the 1960s all the way to the early 2000s. He retired after my brother Ryan graduated high school. I think in 2004 was his last season. And for a guy to kind of go through all those generations and years and still relate to the kids. And I think towards the end of his career, I think he even had probably related to us even better than he might have when he was a young coach. I mean, we got pictures up in like our Byron Hall of Fame or loft of Coach Stein back in the 60s. He would wear a uniform and practice pants and practice with the kids. I mean, times were different back then. It was just unbelievable. He's just an unbelievable human being. I mean, the one thing about Byron football, even to this day, the best thing they ever did was hire Jeff Boyer, because all he had to do was use the same template and script that Coach Stein had built since the 60s and build upon that. And that's exactly what Coach Boyer has done. And but Coach Stein, our football program is built around a lot of stuff that have nothing to do with football. It's family, it's community, it's school, it's hard work and all that type of stuff. And if you take care of all that type of stuff in a community like Byron, you'll have the town crazy for football. You'll have kindergartners just wanting to put a jersey on. You'll build the program from the bottom up, and football will take care of itself. You do have to have some strict criteria on, you know, work ethic and being on time and all that type of stuff. But the X's and O's, I mean, I don't think Coach Stein, I think he'd probably tell you, he probably wasn't the biggest X and O's guy you ever met. And in 1999, we set the all-time scoring record in the state of Illinois, all classes history for scoring out of a wing T offense. I give Coach Boyer a hard time because he was the quarterback then, and he actually threw for over 1,000 yards that year. And now Coach Boyer is breaking records again. But we threw 30 times in 14 games last year, and I would say 28 of those times Jeff didn't want to even throw the ball. So it's kind of interesting to see where Byron football is at, and it's just, you know, we're very fortunate in this town to have the people and the quality of leadership we've had at the top, and it all started with Coach Stein, and here we are today with Coach Jeff Boyer.
I think you answered my next question a little bit, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So, Byron, Iowa, you get drafted 4th round. You end up playing for about a half dozen different teams in the NFL. Yet you came back home. Why?
I'm a homebody. If you ever met my mom and dad are high school sweethearts from Amboy, Illinois. You know, my dad played football at Northern Illinois University, and my mom and dad had me at a very young age. And so I think I was at quite a few of those games at Northern, but my dad commuted back and forth from Northern, playing for Bill Mallory, legendary football coach. He was starting safety for 3 years, and he did it the hard way, because I can't even imagine what he went through, because he's literally commuting from DeKalb to Amboy, staying that night with my mom. We lived with my grandma for about 4 years in the upstairs apartment at her house, and he's playing Division I football, and they won the Fresno Bowl or whatever it was called back then, and managing a family back in Amboy is just unbelievable. And so if there's one thing you know about the Considine family, my sister lives in town, my brother lives in town, we're all having kids and raising kids. I mean, family's the most important thing to us. And that's why I love Byron football, because it's all built around family. I can share my love for Byron football now with my kids. I mean, I got 4 boys. They don't have to play football, but I'm going to tell you right now, if you ask every one of them, they want to play football. They want to be Byron Tigers. They want to put the jersey on, and they just finished up their junior tackle football season last Saturday. I wasn't able to go out to the University of Iowa. Had a 20-year reunion for the 2004 Big Ten championship team. I missed that, but I'm staying home. I'm watching the 5th grade championship and the 7th grade championship. That's what I do. That's what I wanted to be a part of. My dad's retired now. My mom is literally nonstop helping out our families with running kids all over heck, and it's just awesome. I mean, I think it would be weird if I didn't come back home.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It probably strange if you didn't go back home. So that's
the way I look at it.
Fantastic, Matt.
Coach, obviously I was in the position to be the head coach for 16 years, and several of those years I had a great coaching staff, and I'm sure Coach Boyer is very thankful for you. What do you think are the good qualities of a good assistant coach, and what are the nuances that a coach has to know when they're dealing, with the head coach, and how do you go about that? I mean, what have you learned from Coach Boyer? Obviously, you guys are really tight, but that's my first question: is what have you learned from Coach Boyer? But then, what are some qualities that make a good assistant coach?
I've learned a ton from Jeff. I mean, Coach Boyer, we've been best friends since high school. He was my quarterback, and I mean, we both love to hunt and fish, and we've had a lot of great memories together, and that's continuing right through this whole coaching relationship. He's got a son that's in the 7th grade, and I got 3 kids in the 7th grade. So we're raising our families right beside each other and coaching high school football together. It's awesome. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this, in my opinion. And Jeff, I think his attention to detail. I mean, Coach Boyer is an incredible offensive line coach. He's got an incredible background that came from Rochelle football under Kevin Crandall. And I think Jeff has taken the wing tee to the next level because of his ability to coach offensive line. We got great running backs and all that type of stuff, but it all starts up front. And one of the best things that Jeff does is I think he's built a staff that's been able to complement both his style and what he wants. Not as the head coach, you can only do so much. And so, we had the great privilege to get Chad Wilmarth to come back a few years ago. He was the head coach at Genoa Kingston for several years, but he's a Byron grad. He knows offensive line just like Jeff. And so now we have the ability to have Jeff basically take the left side and Chad Wilmarth to take the right side. We got 2 sets of eyes that are just high-level wing tee technicians. And then I think it was important for Jeff to make sure, he wants to focus in on offense. And so he had to find that defensive guy. And we already had it. Brad Miller, who's one of our assistants still, he's one of our linebackers coach, was my defensive coordinator when I played. Brad Miller has coached at Byron since the early 80s, and he's still on the staff.
Wow.
Brad Miller is the coach that's responsible to make sure that all the traditions that we're not ever deviating from what Coach Stein and what those guys have built from the very beginning, that everything we're doing, it always has that in mind. And so Brad just does a phenomenal job with keeping us on track with that type of stuff. And then, I just have the ability, I think my expertise coming from the college and NFL level was really kind of shines through when we started seeing more of these spread offenses. I'll be fully honest. Like, if I was playing Byron, my experience in the NFL, and that means nothing. Like, Byron football is like being on goal line. It's like I didn't learn I don't have a lot of information on how to stop a wing tee. To be honest with you, I hate it. It's one of the toughest, most difficult things as a defensive coordinator to deal with. To be honest with you, I would much rather prepare and I feel like I have some knowledge and stuff I can teach the kids against a spread offense. That doesn't mean that it's easy to stop. It's just the things that I know kind of come into play with that. And I think Jeff identified, the Big Northern and 3A football that the game was going towards that spread looking offense, and that's kind of where I came in and I think filled the void.
Yeah, it is amazing, and Matt can tell you that we have had coaches on, and gee, Matt, imagine that kind of very run-heavy coaches we've had as guests. It's amazing how that works out. But schools that run that offense to this day, a lot of them go back decades and decades because it works. It is frustrating as it gets coaches and how hard it is to prepare. It makes it that much more appealing, it seems. And there's still programs all over the state, coach, that still run that system and have tremendous success. So I've got to imagine, and especially in your town, in your area, it's probably all anyone ever really has known offensively.
Yeah, I mean, there's we've had some changes at coaches at different time periods at Byron between when Coach Stein retired and then ultimately Jeff Boyer got back here. That I think that there might have been a brief period where they tried to run a little bit of the spread, but I think for our level of football, 3A football, and with the population base that you're pulling from, the down blocking that you do on the offensive line of scrimmage, and every year maybe not having 250-pound linemen or even over 200-pound linemen, the ability to instead of having to block the guy in front of you to go down and to be able to do all that, and then to maybe not have a quarterback that can spread the ball out and throw it every year. It just seems like that we've been able to consistently win with that style of offense. And I think at our level, it's just worked out great. There's other programs that we admire and spend a lot of time watching. Wilmington's and Princeton runs some of our. I mean, these teams.
There's a lot of them.
Oh yeah, Coach Boyer and Cary Grove's head coach have become real thick, and that's a good thing. We got a quarterback that can run nowadays, and so Jeff's been in his ear a lot.
No doubt about it. Talk about this year's team, Coach. I mean, I know I can speak for Matt on this. We're just in absolute amazement of your team last year, your state title team, record-setting team, and then you turn around this year, pick things up right where you left off. What is the personality of this team? Is this team different? Is it a different personality from a year ago? And kind of what's in the sauce with this group? What makes this group special?
It is different. I tell you, it's every year is different. Last year was just an incredible experience, incredible memories. I mean, last year, I miss every senior group, but last year's senior group was special. That was a group that had never lost in junior tackle. That was the group in 2021 when we won a state title, upset IC Catholic in the playoffs, and then ended up winning the state title over Tolono Unity. In 21, we had no depth at the varsity level. The whole sophomore team had to come up and practice with the varsity the entire year because we didn't have the numbers. That is very, very unusual at Byron football. Yeah. Well, then that group of sophomores in 23 were seniors, and I've just never seen a 3A roster. I mean, our first string team was very, very good. We had a sophomore fullback and a freshman quarterback that were helping us, and a great junior class. But our senior class, I mean, when we started, the reason why we set the scoring record last year was because of the fact that when we put in our second string and third string in the second half of every game, they were still scoring. I mean, they were scoring against the Stars, and they did that all year long. And so this is a new year. We don't have that type of depth. Again, we're kind of what I would say back to a normal 3A football roster where we got really good players. We got good senior leadership again this year. We got I think 3 offensive linemen that could potentially be all state type of players. We're just probably not as deep. And so, when we get up, 40, 50 points and start subbing, we're not scoring 14, 20, 30 points in the second half, which is fine. But it's just every year presents new challenges. This is the first year in a long time since we've been very fortunate with injuries. We're dealing with injuries, which everybody deals with in the game of football. But I will say last year we literally missed the injury bug for the entire season for the most part, which was incredible. Football has a way of getting back at you. And so this year we kind of been dealing with a little bit of that stuff. But great group of kids, smart football players, hardworking kids. They love football. Make it fun to come to work every week.
Matt?
Coach, I was just going to say, you got a big game Friday night. Without saying too much or, talking too much about it, I mean, tell us a little bit about this matchup. I mean, it's going to be an interesting game. Last year at this time, it was kind of in a mud bath. This year, it's going to be, 70 degrees and warm, and it's going to be really nice and cool on a Friday night. Talk a little bit about this matchup Friday night.
Yeah, this is going to be a big football game. I mean, I literally cannot wait to jump on a school bus, drive down Route 2 down Scenic, right
Yep.
along the Scenic Rock River, head to Dixon, Illinois. Dixon is just excited. That town, they had an awful football program for a long time, and then they came to the big Northern Conference, and they've done very, very well in all sports. And we play them at the junior tackle level, so we know these kids, and we've had great battles with their kids. All of our players know each other well, and they got a heck of a program going. And you just got to tip your hat to Coach Shaner and what he's built down there. And his son is the quarterback, and he just looks like a football coach's kid. You can just tell he knows football, and he's been around it his whole life. Good football player. The Carnegie kid at the running back position, just strong and physical. I mean, he's got some pedigree. His grandpa, Tank Schroyer, I grew up watching him hit softballs about 500 feet with my dad. They're buddies. I'm from Amboy, Illinois, which is just outside of Dixon. And so I spent most of my childhood playing at the YMCA and playing soccer and stuff in the Dixon area. So I got a lot of strong connections to Dixon. I know for a fact, and we're making sure our kids know this, that we're going to walk into, I mean, it's going to be incredible. And our kids live for this. I mean, if you're a high school football fan and, these are the types of games you want, so I'm just really looking forward to going down there. I want Dixon to play well. I want the weather to be perfect. I want our kids to play well. I want a clean game. I want everybody to stay healthy, and, let's see what happens.
No doubt about it. All right, Coach. So I was already planning on going to the game anyway Friday. Now you really want me to get going. So I'm definitely going.
I was told you're coming.
I was being told, I'm terrible at keeping that secret. So I was told, now you tell me if I'm getting good advice here or not. Go hit up Angelo's Pizza in Dixon for spaghetti pizza. You won't be disappointed. Can you corroborate that at all?
One of my favorites. Yeah. That's why I'm
there you go.
About 240 pounds these days. Because, every time I'm driving through Dixon, I try to talk my wife into ordering a spaghetti pizza from Angelo's. Arthur's Garden Deli is another phenomenal place to start. I mean, there's all sorts of them. But, yeah, you can't go wrong with a spaghetti pizza at Angelo's.
There you go. Had to check. Had to get that confirmed. So it's good to know. I'll look forward to that. Although I'm going to be honest with you now, you guys are a little bit north and west of, but anytime I'm heading west off of 80, I kind of find my way into Ladd, Illinois. Do you know what's in Ladd, Illinois?
Please tell us.
Rips Chicken.
Hey, Coach knows. You bet. Very hard to avoid Rips Chicken when you're anywhere near the vicinity.
Trust me, yeah, we got a hunting property and cabin about 12 miles as a crow flies from Rips. So yeah, I've had plenty of Rips Chicken in my life.
Yep. You talked about family connections and Coach Shaner coaching his son, the quarterback, and you obviously have coached your son, who it's got to be a tough year for him. I mean, coming off that state title year, coming back, a lot of buzz about him, and then he gets the injury, and he's been out, almost, if not the entire year. Number one, your thoughts on coaching your son, how that has gone, and just kind of what he's been having to put up with and deal with trying to get back and rehab and recover from an injury.
Yeah, I mean, coaching my sons has been an incredible experience. I think, we'll look back on it and, think it was a great thing for a father and son to be able to do. I did learn very early on, he was a defensive lineman and offensive lineman all through junior tackle because of strict weight restrictions. And as a freshman, he got pulled up to varsity, and we put him right at fullback right away. And he was a defensive end. And I think after that first Friday night game as his first opportunity to, be a fullback, and it was at the varsity level, and then he's playing defensive end at the varsity level as a freshman. We did watch film together one time only on Saturday morning, and I didn't feel good about how that film session went. And so we don't do that anymore. I don't like to sit down with him. I want him to watch the film the same way we watch the film with the rest of the team on Mondays. Yeah. I expect him to watch it on his own. And of course I grade the film and watch it, but I don't need to put him through that every Saturday morning just because his dad's the coach. So I think I learned a good lesson when it comes to that. But yeah, he's had a tough year, but you got to remember football, things like this happen. I told him he pulled his hamstring down at the Lindenwood Mega Camp running a 40-yard dash in June. It had pretty much went away, and then he kind of tweaked it in week 1 during practice, preparing for Rock Falls. And so we held him out of that game, and he said he was fine to go in week 2 against Rockford Lutheran. And he didn't make it long in that game, but he actually pulled his other hamstring. And so he's had 2 hamstring injuries. It was bizarre. And I'd never had a hamstring linger like he's had, and he's had 2 of them now in 2 months. And, but I told him that during the Lutheran game, I saw his frustration. I'm pretty sure he threw his helmet and all that type of stuff. And I went and pulled him off to the side when I got a chance when we were off on defense and said, listen, you're a leader on this team. And the last thing this team needs to see right now from their leader is you pouting or whining about your personal injury. Get down there and be a leader. And so he's done a great job with all that. He's worked hard trying to get healthy and we've sent him everywhere that exists, and he's had every piece of electricity and machine on his body for the last 5 or 6 weeks trying to get back. And hopefully he's good to go this week. So we'll see.
I was going to say, you do have a little bit of resources in your back pocket. I'm sure those friends of yours over at Iowa, I'm sure you've been through a little bit about the best way of trying to help him out.
Yeah, I kind of left them alone about it, but it's a hamstring. You could talk to 10 different people about what you do for a hamstring injury. Some people say nothing. Some people say, there's a million different answers. If this is a lingering issue that happens again or continues to happen, ironically, Madison University had got like a $4 million grant, and they're doing a study up there. And if this continues to go on, we'll definitely be heading up towards Madison. We've already got some pretty good contacts, so I don't expect that to happen. He's practiced. He practiced last week, and he's practiced this week. He looks good, so I'm hoping this is in the rearview mirror.
Yeah, we hope so too, no doubt about it. Matt, got something for Coach?
Yeah, hey, I got a fun question here for you. So, what's more impressive or more intense? Byron Tiger football fans, or the intensity and just, I guess, I don't know how to explain the intensity of Philadelphia Eagle fans? Could you give me kind of what's more impressive in your mind? And also, do you have a good Andy Reid story?
Well, that's an easy question. I mean, Byron fans remind me of like the University of Iowa fans. They just love their Tigers, like the Iowa fans love their Hawkeyes, and they're very respectful and polite, and it's just a different.
I was going to say,
but
much
the
cleaner
Philadelphia
version.
fans can get a little crazy. I mean, they could get
Philadelphia. I mean, wow.
The R-rated version.
Yeah, they. I feel like they think that part of being a fan out there is to. They're tough. I mean, it's hard to explain, but I don't think half of them were big.
This is a G-rated show there, Sean. Okay.
Yeah, my dad learned real quickly. My dad listens like the Score, sports talk radio. We're huge Packer fans, but we still love to listen to the Score, especially after the Bears lose and stuff like that. I think my dad learned real quickly to not listen to
problem with the microphone. Up, wait, up, what?
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, we're in Bears country. Trust me, we take a lot of abuse out here, and it looks like the Bears have.
Why? Who would give you abuse? What are they going to abuse you? Hey, you beat us too much. I mean, come on now.
Bears fans, it's unbelievable because I can't imagine what it's going to be like when they actually have a winning team. But
it's going to be unreal.
It's going to be. It's going to be. It really will be.
It will. It will. I hope. I hope I'm
quick
still alive when it happens.
Quick story on Andy Reid. Anything on Andy Reid? A good Andy Reid story.
Andy Reid was like one of the best head coaches I've ever been around. I mean, the way that guy runs his system and the expectations are set in that program. I'm trying to think of a story. The only thing I can kind of think of for Coach Reid is, he was not like a huge motivational speaker. I mean, he had John Harbaugh on his staff, and John Harbaugh loves to talk.
Awesome.
He's just one of the most incredible leaders. One of the best mentors I have in my life to this day. Just an unbelievable human being. And but Coach Reid didn't say a lot, but after he would speak, on Saturday nights before the games, the last thing he would tell us every time was, "I'm going to treat you to a cheeseburger," and that's like one of the
That's awesome.
one of the things that he literally, and he still says that to this day. If you ever pay attention, some of his players say, "I'll treat you to a cheeseburger." That is Andy Reid's final thing he says to his team the night before they play a football game. "I'll treat you to a cheeseburger."
That's awesome, man.
That's awesome. Philadelphia cheesesteak, legit or overrated?
You'd have to ask my wife. I don't even know if I went down to any of those places, but every time people from Byron and Illinois came to town, my wife was like a travel agent. I mean, she hosted as good as anybody. She took people to all that type of stuff. And cheesesteaks, I don't know, Geno's or something. I can't remember the name of it. I was working. You got to remember, I was surviving. I was in the film room. I wasn't out eating cheesesteaks.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it. I kind of would compare it to like Chicago deep dish pizza, which, yes, most of the locals, most of them don't eat deep dish pizza. It's just a tourist thing, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. It's always been my take. So, Coach, again, thank you so much for taking time. We're thrilled you joined us.
Yes.
Looking forward to seeing you on Friday night. And, best of luck. Best of luck to you and Jeff and everyone in Byron. And, again, I'll definitely come over and say hello on Friday.
Yeah, I appreciate what you guys are doing. You guys are doing a great thing of promoting high school football. I think it's the purest form of football, and it's a great experience for young men. And so let's keep promoting it, and hopefully participation numbers are strong everywhere.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for your interest.
Thanks, Coach.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
Thanks again. All right, Coach drops off. We appreciate it. Wow, that was fun.
That was good. I'm telling you.
He was great. We truly appreciate him taking time to.
The guests keep getting better and better, and just his thorough. He's very thorough and very sincere and just genuine and great answers, but very well spoken. Yeah, and that recruiting advice, like I said, Matt, you given that 20 years ago, and you give it 20 years down the road, and it's still going to be 100% impactful and legit. There's no doubt. There's a lot of core values and principles and what he learned in that player development. There's no shortcuts to any of this, and he's got good advice. If you really want to play college football, you better be ready. I mean, it's a lot of work. No doubt about it. All right, so why don't let's basically do our show now. Yeah, if that makes sense. We talked to him a while. We'll talk to him a while. We can fly through some things. That was a good talk. That was worth it with him. That was really good. All right, so let's go through your opening statements if you're ready. Yeah, real quick. So I have the three things: the big surge, and right now the big surge is in Bismarck, Illinois. Ever since kind of winning a close one earlier in the year, 22-21 over Westville, they're hotter than a firecracker right now. They beat Momence handily. And they're off to the races. They're going to be a good team in 2A. Monticello, another team that lost early in the year. Now they came back and they shut out Paxton Buckley Loda. The defense really played great. Monmouth Roseville, that's kind of the new Princeton this year in the northern part of Illinois. Although they're from the western side, they're a big team that's surging too. And then Princeville. I talked about Princeville in Stark County. Princeville at home beats Stark County, so those are the big surgers. You also mentioned the steady eddies in this opening statement. Who are some of those steady eddies? Well, I think the steady eddies are the Hardin Calhouns, the St. Joe Ogdens. St. Joe is 2 games away from being 9-0 for the first time in about 15 years. They play at Dick Duvall Field. Coach Skinner has a really good team. Camp Point Central. Here's a team that ever since they kind of lost early in the year to Hardin Calhoun, they've been really steady. And Brad doesn't do anything different. He doesn't deviate from the plan. So you got to like those teams right there. Another team that I think you should kind of keep your eyes on is Normal U High in Class 4A. Okay, 100%. So great call. Steady Eddie, Brody Walworth is the head coach. If that name sounds familiar, he coached Pleasant Plains to a state championship appearance against IC. And they held their own against IC until the boat kind of sank. But they have a quarterback by the name of Alan Weiland. They got a tight end named Rhett Lynch. And, their 2 losses this year are to
They're
6A
tested.
to 6A Bloomington, who is no slouch, and to a team by the name of Rochester. At Rochester, they lost by 8 points, and they were in charge of that game for a while.
And one of their key wins against a very good 6A team in Glenwood.
Chatham Glenwood, yes, thank you.
Huge win.
But that's a steady Eddie right there. Watch out for Normal UI. They're going to be 7-2 when they go in the playoffs.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, we are going to talk a lot about them on playoff pairing night. I'll tell you right now. So it's definitely a team that's going to be on the rise. And then you also mentioned you're climbing fast, and you probably find at least one, if not more, in every class.
Yeah, I mean, I would go back to that Princeville team. I think they're climbing fast. I mean, no one's really talked about them. Stark County was the team that was getting all the attention. Now Princeville, kind of watch out for them in 1A. But Arthur Lovington, Atwood, Hammond, their Lincoln Prairie Conference, dominating. I mean, they're up to 21 games in a row. They do great things. The Thge kids is the big offensive lineman. He's gotten an offer from Indiana State, and they've just run roughshed over everybody in that conference. Martinsville and Milford in 8-man football, those are teams that are climbing fast. I talked about Martinsville being the team last year that lost to Pat Elder and Ridgewood. They're 6-1, and they're going against Milford, Cissna Park, who is also 6-1.
Okay, so there's your opening statements. Let's go through the rankings real quick if you want.
Yep.
We'll go through and give a couple thoughts on what you notice here out of them. So again, we happily and gladly use the NUICfootball.com rankings for Class 3A through 8-man football. Matt, we're gonna keep 4A aside for tonight. Let's go through 3A and below. So we'll start in 3A. Number 1 team, Byron, just had Coach Sean Considine on the show. They are the number 1 team in 3A according to NUIC football. Number 2, Montini. 3, Wilmington. Again, Wilmington, Matt, as you well know, they're going to be the border team back and forth over the next week or two, depending upon whose projections you see. So 1 week they're in 2, the next week they're in 3. I think they're totally going to dance that line all the way through here at this time. So 3 is Wilmington, 4 is St. Joe Ogden, 5 is Monmouth Roseville, 6 Seneca, 7 Williamsville, 8 Princeton, 9 Dupec, and 10 Monticello also receiving votes. Tolono Unity, Eureka, Paxton, Buckley, Loda. Sir, your thoughts in 3A?
Well, I think in that Three Rivers Conference, you have the small division, which is Sterling Newman and Taylor Ridge Rockridge, and you have the big division, which is Princeton and Monmouth, and they're in the Mississippi division. Princeton's a very good team, and they got manhandled by Monmouth Roseville. Monmouth Roseville, coached by Jeremy Adolphson. The Adolphsons are very famous over in the Milan Quad City area for weightlifting equipment. A lot of the Adolphsons played for Coach Welder at Alito back in the day. And so, again, one more. But watch out for those teams over there, Monmouth and Princeton. And then, St. Joe Ogden, I mean, could they be the team that comes out of the South? That's going to be really interesting to see. I mean, who will be that team that maybe can match up with them? It's just going to be really interesting to see. Is it going to be Williamsville? Is it going to be maybe a Roxana team? Somebody is going to be battling St. Joe, but they've done a great job of staying very, very good here as they go into Week 8 with a chance to, close out the regular season 9-0.
Very good. Class 2A, top 10 according to NUICfootball.com. Others receiving votes this week, Bloomington Central Catholic. Again, Matt, that's another team to keep an eye on. Again, 4-3 record right now, but very battle-tested. Moments, Pena, Arthur Lovington, Atwood, Hammond. How about that, huh? And Vandalia. Number 10, Johnson City. Number 9, Rock Ridge. Number 8, EPC. 7, Bismarck Henning. Number 6, Chicago Christian. 5, Chester. 4, Tri-Valley. 3, Farmington. 2, Quincy Notre Dame. And number 1, Maroa Forsyth. Matt, your thoughts in 2A?
Well, Maroa Forsyth sent a message. They sent a message against an Olympia team at Olympia. And, they won that game 61-33. You just got to tip your hat off again to Coach Joseph. I mean, he does a great job. It's going to be really interesting to see how all of 2A kind of unfolds. I'm trying to think there's another team there that you could kind of talk about. Arthur Lovington, if they're in 2A, they've kind of had some bad luck over the years. Last year they played Quincy Notre Dame, and, Quincy Notre Dame is no joke. I mean, if they're in 2A and Wilmington's in 3A, that'll be really interesting to see how that unfolds. I want to say something, too, about Eureka in 3A. They have a quarterback by the name of Ben Lapp, and he's the quarterback, and they're 7-0, so that's another team in 3A I think you could watch out for. I'm just trying to think of some other people over there in the 2A. Again, back to St. Joe. Wyatt Wirtz as a kid, the running back that topped over 100 yards. I'm trying to think who else. No, just good. There's some good football.
We got time.
Over there.
We got time. We got another week. We got another week plus before brackets come out. So we'll definitely get everything rolling there for sure. Let's go into 1A. Again, this is according to NUICfootball.com. Go visit them at NUICfootball.com. Also on the X machine at NUIC Football. Others receiving votes this week: Galena, Cesar Valor, Printville, Rockford Lutheran, number 10, Stockton, 9, Greenfield Northwestern, 8, Casey Westfield, 7, Gibson City Melvin Sibley, Calhoun at 6, Newman Central Catholic at 5, Camp Point Central at 4, Leroy at 3, Lena Winslow at 2, and Althoff at number 1. Matt, your thoughts, 1A.
Well, we don't really know too much about the western side of the state because it's on the western side of the state. But, Carrollton, comes off a big win, and then they lose to Greenville, and Joe Pembroke's team over in Greenville is always good. They have one loss. His son is a quarterback. Just kind of watch out for Greenville. They're over there playing the Carrolltons and the Hardin Calhouns and the Camp Point Centrals and the Jacksonville Routes. Someone's going to come out of there. And I would just say this also, too. The big story around here is an incredible game. You're going to see an incredible atmosphere in Dixon.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Well, I'm telling you right now, the incredible atmosphere you're going to see down here is over in Leroy, Illinois, between 7-0 Leroy and 7-0 Gibson City. And that's going to be kind of a contrast to styles. Leroy is dominated with that offensive line. They got some big boys up there. Their quarterback, obviously, Bo Zalesnik. Gibson City, for the most part, has been very fundamentally sound. They will have to have no room for error on Friday night when they play Gibson City. They're going to have to be, or when they play Leroy, they're going to have to be mistake-free. It should be a great game. Be really interesting. Back to a team that's going to float back and forth between 1A and 2A, Sterling Newman. Ever since their 14-28 loss to Princeton, they've been on a roll. And I'll just say this. Their last 2 games are at Kewanee, and then they're home against Monmouth Roseville. So you potentially will have the champion and that Three Rivers playing each other at Sterling Newman. The winner gets the bragging rights. So it should be really interesting.
Yeah, and talk about games that have an impact on seedings. Those games get an impact, no doubt.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. Let's talk about our friends in 8-man. Again, this is according to NUICfootball.com. There's receiving vote: St. Anne, St. Thomas More, South Fork, number 10, West Carroll, number 9, West Central. Oh, I see what they did there. Number 8, Martinsville, number 7, Milford Citizen Park, 6, Flanagan Cornell Woodland, 5 is Pawnee, 4, Milledgeville, 3, Amboy, number 2 is Ridgewood, and number 1, Matt, in 8-man, according to NUIC Football, is Polo. Your thoughts?
Well, again, Polo kind of rises to the top. It's an old NUIC team. Again, I think the big game down here is Martinsville against Milford Cissna Park. Flanagan, an old staple in the Heart of Illinois Conference. That could be a team you could watch out for. Don't count out Jason Kirby in West Central. Pat Elder has a great team at Ridgewood. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens. We're going to have one more week of good weather, and then we're going to get into some nasty weather. I think we're going to get some nasty weather come week 9 into the playoffs. And like Pat said, some of these teams in 8-man, if they have a burner on the edge is hard to contain in 8-man. So it's going to be interesting to see if maybe a team kind of comes out of nowhere and starts gaining that traction. Ridgewood was that team last year, took it all the way to the state title game and got beat up by Amboy. Ridgewood could be the favorite this year, but there's going to be someone else in that 8-man. We'll see how it unfolds in week 8 and week 9.
I am trying to remember the year that it was, and I can't, and I will go back later and look it up. There was a year, and we're going back probably 10, 15 years, where we really didn't get bad weather until week 9. And there were some monster upsets in week 9.
Yeah.
Then we got a repeat in week 10. And there were teams, favorite teams dropping like flies because it was bad weather. It was heavy winds and blowing rain, which turned into sleet. It was a mess. Now, knocking on wood, we don't get any of that nonsense. But I guess the point is, you rather run into that early in the year and then you're, I guess, a little bit more prepared for it later down the road, because don't you kind of have to go through it before you can really get used to it? No?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't like this. I want it to be kind of cooler. I want to wear a hoodie. I want to go out there and coach in week 6 maybe, but 7, 8, 9, and I want it to be cold and nasty. I want to get ready for that.
Well, it's funny because we're supposed to warm up by the end of the week.
Yeah, it's going to be, again, I'm not going to be wearing this to Illinois, Michigan. It's going to be 80 degrees. But my point is, you asked me a question. Yeah, I would want to be used to a little bit of wind, a little bit of rain, a little bit of nastiness.
Mud.
Okay.
Yep.
It's the same thing. Like you should be playing your best football at the end of the year. So I know you're talking about weather. I'll shift it over to like playing good teams. Like, like a lot of these teams are going to be playing some good teams in week 8 and week 9. Like Camp Point Central, they're playing some really good teams in week 8 and week 9. They're going to be playing their best football by week 10. Why? Because they play playoff caliber teams in week 8 and week 9. It's the same thing. You should try to get a little bit used to this weather. But I'm going to tell you right now, like, I don't want to turn this into a meteorologist report, but global warming is kind of taking over, man. I mean, it's hot out. It's weird.
Yeah. But I was going to ask Coach Considine this. Have you run the furnace yet or no?
No, I haven't.
We have. We turned it on last night. It was 62 degrees in the house.
It was. I slept well though. Let's put it that way. It was cold.
Oh, I did too, but had to fire it over. I got outvoted.
Yeah.
So,
but it's going to be interesting. I'm excited. I've talked to this with friends of mine talking about football. I mean, it's the smell's coming. The pork chop smell's coming. The football's coming. I have a feeling we're going to get some cold, nasty weather in the playoffs. I could be wrong. I just have a feeling we're going to.
The odds are we're going to. The odds are we're going to.
Exactly.
We haven't had it. We're going to get it. There's no way we can avoid it. There's no way. All you hope is that the bad stuff hits like during the week.
Well, and I'll remember the year that, and I don't know what year it was. All I know is that Arcola won the state championship up in Northern against Stark County, and it was the week before, and there was like a foot of snow.
Yep.
And I remember watching that Marist was playing somebody in the semifinals up in Chicago, and it looked so freaking blippity.
Oh, I was at Montini.
Yeah.
When Montini played, Matt, it was the wildest game I've ever seen. They had dads out shoveling. They literally were running snow plows onto the turf field to try to clear it. It was crazy.
And then,
so memorable.
And then when we got to Northern the next week, it was really cold because that snow had not left the ground. It was bad. It was bad.
Yep.
Like usually you can stand outside and watch 1A and 2A. I went inside at the end of the third quarter in 1A and I didn't turn back.
Yeah, no doubt. There's definitely remember that. All right, enough of down the road fond memories. Yeah, very excited. Glad I'm going to Dixon. Got to look into spaghetti pie. Someone else, I had a couple others. There were a couple other fans on my board that said, I need to go check out some places. I've actually covered a game in Dixon before. It was about 15, 20 years ago, probably. But yeah, so I've been there before. So I'm looking forward to going again. I've been there. I've been to Byron. I've been to Rochelle. Do I have that whole area pretty covered?
Yeah, and
Good.
I will just say this. I will put Dixon up there as a sleeper atmosphere for high school football.
It'd be great. It was great when I was there 20 years ago. So.
I'm telling you, I watched him play against Kevin Crandall and Rochelle in a playoff game, and it was a slobber knocker. And it's just neat how it's kind of tucked in there by the river, by the school.
I love pulling into downtown areas for small towns. Dude, it's the best. It's like Americana. It's awesome.
Yes.
And again, I told someone, I go, look, for whatever reason, about once a month I have to go cleanse my soul and go to either small school football or go away from Chicagoland. Look, and again, we'll wrap this up. Friday night, it took me an hour and almost 45 minutes to go from my house to DePaul Prep in Chicago. Yeah. At one point, I went 3.3 miles in an hour. Not good. Not fun.
Not fun.
But after that, I'm like, you know what? I gotta go get away a little while and go experience that little bit smaller atmosphere and small town atmosphere. So I'm psyched. I'm ready.
Tim, we want you to come down to God's country, okay? Knox County.
Where's that? I bet there's all kinds of God country around there.
Come down here down south where you can get from one place to another in 15 minutes.
You're not south. You're not even close to south.
I know, but
I'll tell you south.
I know. Well, of course you will. Right there. Yep. There he is, right back there. Look at him wearing that hat.
Yep.
Right here, Salukis.
Yep, my boys right there. All right, pal. Another good show. I feel good about it. I don't know about you.
Very good. No, we hit a home run again with Coach Considine, and go on and watch a football game, guys. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, we'll probably do one more coach next week, and then we'll maybe take off or play off and do a pairing show. We'll see.
Yeah,
see how it goes.
We're ready. We're ready.
We will. All right. So for Matt Lang, I'm EDGYTIM. Thanks, everybody. Great to have you on board, and look for more coming from us real soon. Have a great weekend. Go out, watch a football game. Bye, everybody. Okay. Hit the wrong button.